I remember my first presentation about burnout. It was 2019 or something like that, and people were surprised. So they were
Mm-hmm.
not, they were curious, but they were not really interested in knowing more. It was not really relatable to them. And then when I started talking about that couple of years later, I didn't even realize I create my personal brand. I mean,
Okay.
I know a lot of people talk about it right now. So usually gods also have some
Something to say.
ideas, something to say exactly. So if you listen to both and they both agree, then probably it's a cool project. I started thinking about changing job, so going to another project, meeting new people, and I was scared. And that was the first time in my life that I was scared of change. And usually it was like I loved it. I was excited about like joining new project, and then
Hey there, busy programmers. Thanks for tuning into the Busy Programmer series where we dive into the stories, insights, and beyond code challenges of some of the most inspiring people in tech. Before we jump into today's conversation, I would like to ask a quick favor. Statistics show that over half of people who watch this kind of interviews don't subscribe to the channels. So if you enjoy what you are seeing or hearing here and want to keep up with more real, relatable content about life in tech, hit that subscribe or follow button. It's easy and it doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us grow this community, bring on more of the guests we are excited to feature, and keep adding real value for you. Don't be a stranger in read mode only as well. Drop your comments, leave questions for me and my guests, and suggest anyone you would love to see on the show. Together we can shape this channel into a space that truly reflects what matters most to all of us busy programmers. All right, let's get into it. Hope you enjoy today's episode. Welcome to the Busy Programmer series and my next interview with yet another busy programmer from the tech industry, Ola Kunysz. Ola is my guest. Ola, how are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you. I'm a little bit less busy recently, so I'm not sure if I'm a perfect guest for this podcast, but I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
And thank you very much for accepting this invitation. And to be fair, since I observe you in the internet, I think I saw a lot of the phases of your evolution and revolution through the biggest business probably ever that you've also shared on some talks to the place where a lot of us wants to be with the amount of work, maybe with the approach to the life, and also the topics that you are actively sharing. So I hope it will be very useful, and I'm sure it will be very eye-opening as well for people who might be busy but might want to be less busy at one of the phases. But let's start from the start. Can you introduce yourself for the people who are watching us here? What are you doing? What is your involvement in IT industry or beyond IT as well? Who are you, Ola?
Mostly, I'm a software engineer. I started working in IT industry a long time ago, and I really enjoy coding and everything which is related to software engineering. But I'm not only that. So I've been always busy with working for community. So I attend conferences. I create a lot of content, mostly educational content. I enjoy meeting people and doing projects with them. So I'm more than programmer. I'm rather like active person in IT industry, I would say, which doesn't mean I'm extremely like busy all the time, but I have my moments. So I prefer to work in those slots when I'm very active and very busy, and then I need to charge my battery. So then I become my introvert part, and I need to focus on myself and just charge my battery back.
Makes sense. So we are switching hats and context, but to upload from the specific areas. So what's the context number one right now? If you would be defining yourself as right now, what is taking your place number one when it comes to your activities at the moment?
Right now, I'd say I'm a mentor. So I work with people who want to avoid burnout, which means they want to be more involved. They want to enjoy the work more. They want to have personal life and have this mysterious balance between work and personal life. So I'm a mentor mostly. I'm not involved in any like contract or employment right now, because I'm focusing on this part. So last year I studied positive psychology, so I'm a little bit shifted from my main path, but it's not that I change it. I decided to like stop programming and start doing something else. It's just a pivot right now, to like gain some knowledge and skills to use it in software, hopefully in the future. So this is how I usually operate. So I move to some area to gain knowledge and skills there, and then I use it in my everyday work. So I connect many dots this way, and you can say that I'm master of none, and it was a problem for me for a very long time. But on the other hand, I have so many skills and talents, because of the way I operate, that when I join the project, I can basically finish almost everything myself. I prefer not to do that anymore, because it's extremely hard to like be the only person working on everything. But for many years, especially when I conducted trainings and I created online courses, I did everything myself, so I had to learn everything. So since then, I'm sure that I can learn almost everything, and I can operate with that, and I can utilize those skills. But right now, I prefer to like gain some skills and then cooperate with others, not to be on my own and be overwhelmed with all the stuff I want to create.
Yeah, it makes complete sense, and I can heavily relate to that, because it's like the battle of generalization versus the range of skills being in place for our lives. It seems to be a superpower that not a lot everyone has, but in a lot of the years, we as a coders, programmers, we used to aim to be specialized. And
Yeah,
now it seems like we need to switch contexts. You've probably seen also those studies about us changing careers 7 times during our lifetime, in average. So we are switching probably more in an orchestrated way, even though we might not know that we are switching the context at the moment. So that's
exactly.
great to hear. That's great to hear. Do you remember the beginnings in the IT industry? I do like to jump into the past for a little while, of course. But do you begin when it all started, when the code, programming, or generally the industry started to be on your radar, and when you've been involved for the first time into that?
So IT was not on my radar for a long time. My like biggest interest was math, and I really enjoyed that part. So then, when I was in high school, I decided to study IT, but it was not something like really exciting
Life
or
mission
well
or something
paid.
like that.
Yeah. It was just something interesting where you can use math in real life, in real projects. Because the problem with maths is that you either go to teach people or you stay at the university, and I wanted to be like involved in business and doing things like with my hands, and being like make my hands dirty with code. So that was the reason. And then when I started my studies, I fell in love, and I started working at the university to create software, and that was something I really enjoyed, even though I was not like one of those who got my first PC when I was 8, and then I started coding. It's not my story. I always preferred being like involved in many projects at the same time. So I was active as I don't know, the part of the actress, part of some projects at school. I was interested in maths and etc. So I was not like laser focused on one thing. That started very early. So I think IT was perfect for me because there is a lot of things changing all the time, and I really love change and I embrace change. So that's why I like working in this industry since day one, even though it was not as attractive as it is today when I started.
That's nice. And I think, again, you've mentioned acting probably in one of the presentations that I've attended as well. And you've been combining those skills in the even IT industry through your social media and personal branding presence. And I think that also career changes and focus changes, you did a lot of them during those years. I met you in the internet for the first time, probably when you were advocating software testing very much then. You've launched the online products. We will be talking about what products and what activities you have done. But then you switched to something else, and you're still being very active on those medias and modern platforms. And personal branding probably is not a term that you are avoiding. You are intentionally creating your personal brand, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel, do you know when it all started to be seen by you, that it's not only about IT, it's not only about, let's say, testing area, it's not only about the programming itself, but it's also about being seen, maybe being found by other people, and when you started maybe creating your personal brand intentionally? Do you remember that maybe?
Oh, I think it started like last year when I prepared a presentation about personal branding. Before that, I didn't even realize I create my personal brand. I mean,
Okay.
I know a lot of people talk about it right now, so I of course realized that I constantly work on that. And when you Google me, you can find me. You can find my materials, educational stuff, and presentations from conferences. So from the perspective of speaker, it was very important for me to be like online too, so people can find me when I want to talk on conference. Organizers can find me, but I've never called it personal branding. It was just being visible and doing things that I enjoy. So I've never finished like class about building personal brand and then I followed the rules. No, it was more like working on projects which were interesting for me, put heart in that, and then like be visible because of that. But it was not intentional personal branding project when we.
And that's interesting to hear because, yeah, I agree with that, that there's a lot of talks about personal branding these days. And I believe all of us did personal branding before it was named like that. But often, and I speak with a lot of people, it's a positive side effect or consequence of just
Exactly.
us doing things, right? So, and same with the platforms. If you do not have anything interesting to share, probably you are not going to build your personal brand. But everyone has something interesting to share, and that's also another point of view that. But that's cool. That's cool. And right now you're still are doing it. You are still very active, I would say, on social medias. And are you an early adopter of social medias or platforms yourself? Do you join the train when something arrives, or how do you approach that? Because you've been doing TikToks, I do remember that.
Yeah.
You've been doing Instagram since I remember as well. I don't know. Are you on Blue Sky or the other ones that are right now thriving as well?
It depends. Because when I have some free space in my mind and in my calendar, then I'm early adopter. For example, I was one of the first people who joined Clubhouse in IT industry.
Yes.
I also used Threads for a moment, but
Have you been on
like you mentioned,
Have you been on
TikTok.
Snapchat when it was also starting amongst the IT in Poland at some point? I do
So the
remember that.
snapshot was cool, then it died, and then it was cool again. And I think my main activity in social media was before those periods. So
Okay.
no, I don't think I've ever created anything on Snapchat. But I think Clubhouse was the one
Mm.
that I spent a lot of time there, and I shared a lot of content there, and it just died after some time, I guess.
Sadly, rest in peace.
Sadly, yeah, exactly. But I remember like going for walks and attending some discussions there. So it was interesting time to like experiment with something. And the same with TikTok. I joined TikTok as one of the first IT people there, and I created like 50 videos there. It was crazy, but I think it was the pandemics and the stress
Mhm.
that I needed to like resolve somehow. So my way of dealing with stress is working and making just something funny to cheer me up. So that's why I created so many videos, and I created them like almost every day. So every day I woke up and I was like, all right, so what I'm gonna record today and which trend I'm gonna follow, etc. So it was a little bit cringe, but I didn't care. It was just my way of dealing with stress, and it worked perfectly. So I'm proud of those videos. And then one day it just stopped. It's my modus operandi. I work like this. So I join something, I put like 100% of my energy there, and one day it just stops being attractive for me, and then I leave, and I don't have problem with either joining or leaving the project. It's just the way I operate. I try not to like leave the team or leave people who are waiting for my work, etc. But when I do it on my own, it's not a problem to join or leave the project.
That's interesting. That's probably also another superpower that you have, and maybe also a driver why you started explore psychology a lot, because that's
Probably.
all- that's something what I've at least found interesting about your history. And of course, I think it's a good time to transition into some challenges with let's say being overwhelmed with work, with why you've switched this activities, because you've mentioned that here and also in all the other occurrences that you've been shifting the paths because something maybe stopped being interesting for you. You've also actively advocated that you've been burned out in the past, and you right now are mentoring other people and helping them overcome burnouts as well. So let's talk about this maybe right now. How it all started for you when you realized that something what you were doing then stopped being that interesting, or what were the first sign, if we're talking about this recognition, that you captured for you, that's where the alarming point of time that, oh, I need to do something with it, I'm not happy maybe.
I was tired, of course, and probably this is the first sign for many people that there is something wrong, because we are constantly tired and we don't have energy for either working or personal life. So that was a problem for me as well, but I thought it's because of the
Mhm.
workload I had at the time. But then I started thinking about changing job. So going to another project, meeting new people, and I was scared. And that was the first time in my life that I was scared of change. And usually it was like I loved it. I was excited about like joining new project, and then I realized something is really really wrong because I don't have energy to go and look for job and go to interviews and meet new people and learn about new businesses, etc. So that was my red flag. Then I realized something is wrong, so I decided to try working part time, and I asked my boss about that, and he was the one who said that it looks like it might be burnout. So then I started reading about that. I started like taking care of myself in this way to avoid burnout. I started therapy and it worked fine for me. So after like a couple of months, I got back to programming and I enjoyed that again. But today I know that there were more signs
Yeah.
before and at the time, but I just ignored them because I had another coffee, I had another presentation at the conference, I got the endorphins and caffeine and etc. So I didn't feel tired, and I thought that everything is going to be all right. And even though I'm tired now, somewhere in the near future is going to be fine. But it was not going to be this way without any therapy or without any work done to take care of myself.
That's pretty common, I would say. And if I remember correctly, and I have a note here that at some of the presentations you showed that 76% of people were burned out in this survey. It was from 2018.
Yeah.
Do you have the latest data or more recent data about this number after pandemic and all the other stuff?
This is from Gallup, and they haven't repeat
The study.
the study yet. But we have some studies done in Poland, and we have some international studies, and it's not worse. So this is the good thing about it, but it's similar. So it's not better either.
So still 3 out of 4 people
Yeah.
in the table being affected, and I think that you had also kind of luck, hard to say luck, but your manager, your boss, was kind of aware of the problem, and I think that's at least when I often speak with people who also seem to be recognizing some of the challenges, often their surrounding is not that much supportive, and they say no, burnout. If you ask people about burnout, they will tell you that they are burned out, but if you don't mention that, they won't. So
Yeah.
you see people right now, you mentor them as well. Do you see this as a common thing? Is it like is there a schema that people follows when it comes to that? They are avoiding recognition of this. They are postponing the symptoms or actions. Is there anything that we can share with people here who are watching that do not ignore that right now? That might not be this, and generally it's not something what you can lose if you would do something with it, right? So is there any pattern that you could share with us?
First of all, if you feel like something is wrong, don't ignore it, because probably it is. And look for the reasons, look for the root causes for that. Because if you are constantly angry at your team, it's not the reason, it's just the output of that. Probably there is something with your energy levels, or with the communication style in the team, or with the way you work as a team, so processes. So if you dig deeper and you learn about the root causes for that, then you start working around it. For every person, it's going to be different. So there is no like one pattern. So you take care of, for example, your weekends, and if your weekends are going to be offline, everything is going to be all right. For some people, probably so. For others, it's not enough. So they need to take care of the environment where they work, not only about their like free time. Free time is extremely important, because we need rest, and we also need to take care of our relationships, because our relationships will make us stronger and more like immune to burnout. So without people around us, it's gonna be harder to like avoid and go through burnout, because I mostly work with people who want to avoid burnout, and not who are like
Diagnosed, already dealing with it.
yeah. Exactly. So it's much easier this way, because if you are already burned out, you need the therapy, you need to go to doctors, and you probably need to take time off for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. But if you start acting today when you feel like something is wrong, then you can work around it yourself.
Yeah, so it's same like in software. It's easier in the long term to prevent issues rather than
Exactly.
to react to them when they occur. So what did work for you then? And then let's talk about how you are preventing it right now. What you did then to get back, and what are you doing at the moment to avoid it, or are you able to avoid it, or is it something what is coming back periodically? How it's looking for you now?
It definitely comes back because your way of working is similar and your habits are the same. Even if you go through therapy, there are things in your character and in your processes that will cause like being on the way to burnout, but with some experience and with some knowledge and skills, you can prevent that in the long run. But you need to be like curious all the time about what's going on in your head, in your body, to know that something is happening and to feel to feel that and want to act and do something about it, because most of the time we ignore our like red flags and we drink another coffee and then we're not actively preventing burnout, and that's why we get closer and closer. And if we start to like looking for symptoms, if we start taking breaks seriously, if we start taking care of our body, so we are not only involved in work like the whole time, but we also have private life, we also have relationships, we also have some hobbies, and we have a life full of other things, not only work, then it's easier to prevent it in the long run. But it's not that you work with that once and then you are like cured or anything. It's the same with every disease. I believe that if your habits stay the same and if your way of working stays the same, it's gonna come back.
Okay. Yeah, I was having one question that was about the misconception about burnout, but I think that you partially already answered that, because it seems like it is a disease as any other. It has its own symptoms, it has its ways of going out, but it's often already sold like an easy way out when we know it, that it all depends as same as everything else. So let's maybe talk about how then. You've mentioned that you made some space for the rest and taking care of yourself and things like that. How do you right now preventing this to not come fast or faster? What are you doing at the moment to take a step away from another one?
We need to start from the base, which means physical movement, diet, and sleep, because without that, it's going to be very hard to make decisions, to like do any action which is productive. So this is my base as well. Meditation or taking breaks is another thing. So spending time on my own, where I can like focus or think what's important for me, how am I? This is also a very important question I ask myself almost every day. What's going on in my body, in my mind? And if I know that, then I can act. Because usually what we do is we ignore the signals from our body, and we simply work on autopilot, and we just don't think about it, and then one day we are too tired to wake up. So that's why I ask myself many questions about how I feel, how my body feels, is everything all right, am I not overwhelmed? If so, then what can I do, or which tasks I can skip. My to-do list, it's usually flexible. It's not that I need to do everything what's there, even though usually I feel this pressure, because when you want to do everything perfect and you feel fear of missing out and you want to do everything perfectly, then it's very easy to like try to accomplish everything, ignoring what you really feel. But if you are aware and if you are mindful about your everyday, then it's harder to make those mistakes.
And are you taking notes about this kind of feelings and observations? Because I'm asking because I've started using application which is called Stoic, and that's awesome.
Okay.
Because without it, I wouldn't even realize that I was unhappy for the bigger part of the month, for example, because the month passed by. and then we are back on another month, and then we are sometimes happier, sometimes didn't. But at the end of the month, I did realize that I have 76% of the days where I answered myself that I'm maybe not fine in general, right? So are you taking those notes, or are you just kind of acting or reacting to the observations when you are speaking with yourself? That's something that interests me.
Usually it's just thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
When something is wrong, then I try to act and do something about it. I also use Headspace app, so then I note how I feel from time to time. And it's easier to realize that I was, for example, sad
Mm-hmm.
like week in a row or something. Because it's natural that your emotions are not always the same. So you're angry, you're sad, you're happy, and it changes with time. But it's not fine if you feel angry, for example, for 2 weeks in a row. Then something is really wrong with. Not with you, but with the environment which is causing that. So then we need to dig deeper what's causing that. But I also do journaling, and journaling really helps with like going deeper into your thoughts. And I try to do that every day. I'm like really poor in doing stuff every day, so it doesn't occur like perfectly day after day. But when I do it at least a couple of times a week, it helps me to find patterns. So when I try to when I start to complain about something in my head, or I'm angry second day in a row, then I write it down and I try to find the root cause. Like in software, when we have incident on production and we use 5 whys technique, this is the same. So I ask myself, why am I angry? Why am I angry because of the thing that is not really serious, but in my head is extremely serious. So what happened before that? What caused that? And then I can dig deeper into the real cause of this feeling, and not only like think about my emotions with negative sign, because emotions are not like positive and negative. They have signs, positive and negative signs, because all of them are useful and all of them say something. So it's useful to realize that I have emotions and observe them and learn them, because sometimes during mentoring process I ask people how did they feel, for example, during something, or when some unpleasant incident occurred, and they don't know because they don't have like these connections with their feelings and emotions. So it's really important to learn that. I know it's hard because no one really taught us to name emotions and feel them, but we can buy some books for kids and start there, and it's
Or watch
perfectly
Emojis
fine.
movie or similar ones,
Exactly.
right? But
Exactly.
that's also something what I realized, and I wanted to also ask you about it, because again, it seems like I've started to be interested in psychology when I realized that something in our heads is either under control or outside of our control, or we don't know what is happening and we want to name it. We want to know why it's happening, and that's where I realized also after having kids as well that a lot of movies approach that, and now
Yeah.
maybe they have a better starting point than we did in the past, because
Hopefully, yeah.
again we are probably from the same generation. Our parents were not most of our parents were not that good in communicating emotions, or they were kind of also limited in the understanding of them from the generations behind us. So now it seems like they have a better starting point, but also we have a lot of knowledge around. You've started the positive psychology studies, right? And it was when it was a year ago, or not that?
Yeah, last year.
Okay, so I thought it was earlier than. And so was it after you started mentoring people and talking with them? What was the driver for you to go there then?
I think it was before, because I felt like it's a good way to help people through mentoring, because then I can work one to one or in masterminds, for example, and I can share my experience, and I can help them prevent burnout. But I needed more tools. And I decided psychology, especially the positive psychology part, it's gonna be useful here. So that was my driver. Plus, I was interested in psychology, and that's one of those things that you have on your bucket list, and you never do that. So I decided, all right, so this is the time I will start studying positive psychology, because I'm not going to be like therapist or anything. I'm not so into psychology that I want to like change my career, but rather I wanted tools from the positive psychology to use on my daily work, for myself, but also for my mentees. So it was a great idea because I got so many tools. Positive psychology is so well
Already after
tested.
a year.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
because it's those are like simple things, simple tools like journaling or gratitude journal, or some working on positive emotions, discovering your talents and your strengths. So we have knowledge about most of those tools, but we don't always use them. And when you look for papers and things that were studied by scientists, and then you know it works, it's easier to talk about it to people. Because when this the saying that it works on my side, but it doesn't need to work for everybody. But when you have studies and you have books about it, then it's easier to convince people to at least try those techniques.
Yeah, I agree. And at the same time, it's like we often use some techniques without even knowing that we use them.
Yeah.
And then we realize that, oh damn, that there is a framework for that, or there is a step next that maybe we were not aware we were doing, and that's exciting. Again, I'm very surprised that after a year you already were able to implement a lot of that amongst your techniques, and yeah, it looks like it helps you already in the work that you're doing, and even without understanding or realizing this, you kind of are already a therapist for the people who are asking you the tough questions, because I did realize that a while ago after also watching people who are doing active mentoring, mastermind groups, etc., that it's tough for us to go to the therapist. Like a lot of people struggles to make this decision. Like I won't go to the psychologist, I won't go to the psychiatrist or stuff like that. I'm not that unhealthy yet. But then it's easier for us to talk to some friends, some colleagues, some people from our IT industry who have been there, right? So without even naming it as a therapy, it's kind of just normal discussion with some more experienced or more educated or aware person, which might act as a therapy. That's how I see it, at least right now, because it might also lead then. Of course, we won't be a doctor, so you won't be a doctor as well, or maybe you will. We never know. But it's not like we are playing as the doctors, right? It's a lot of people still need to go to real doctor and react with some more structured ways and tools,
Yeah.
right?
Definitely, but the context of IT helps a lot, and this feedback I get from many of my mentees, that the context of the industry is so important that even though most of them are in the therapy already, it helps to talk to someone who is from IT. So who knows about how delivering software works, about bugs on production, about the whole agile process, etc. So it's easier for them to talk about it than to like describe everything to therapists. So they go to therapy and they go through habits and beliefs, and then they go to mentoring and they talk about like everyday work and those small things that they can change, their approach to work, their approach to the team members, for example, and tasks. And this is not like this or that, but rather combining those tools together. So it's completely different. Even like coaching is something different. Mentor can lead you to can show you the path So this is different from coaching, because coach will just direct you by asking questions, and you need to figure it out yourself. But with mentoring, I can share my experience and I can show examples of my own or of my colleagues, and then it's easier for the person to know if this is the path for him or her or not. Because this is what is also really important, that I share my experience, but it doesn't need to be 100% reliable for someone. So someone can choose not to do this way, but rather pick something else, and that's perfectly fine. Just knowing that there are some options is going to be helpful as well.
I never thought about those differences between coach and mentor. Then that's interesting. But then it might be also a niche itself for psychologists or for the therapist at some point to dive into the creative industries, let's say, because we see it's hard to say, it's a very bad word, trend, but we are heavily exposed to those issues. Also, you said it on if I remember on your TEDx talk, that when you talk about IT industry and those problems that people have in our industry, for other people from, let's say, more normal industries, it looks like what they are talking about, right? That was one of your sentences. I won't be trying to translate it into English, but I do remember this slide, and you said that, and it's like it might be an issue itself. How do you see it right now in the future? Do you feel like we have enough tools, enough ways to go out and reduce those numbers? Is there something? Is it more awareness amongst our people? We maybe, as a context as well, we both attended one of the conferences recently called Beyond Code that was addressing one of those issues too, and I think that's. Is it something that we talk more often these days? Is it something what is easier to be resolved? And how do you see the tools and the possibilities from the current industry or engines to help us dealing with it in the future? Do you see that, or do you think about it at all?
I mostly work with single persons, so I try not to solve the problem for the whole industry, but rather person by person. But I think the awareness is here. It's not perfect yet, of course, but it's much better than a couple of years ago. I remember my first presentation about burnout. It was 2019 or something like that, and people were surprised. So they were not, they were curious, but they were not really interested in knowing more. It was not really relatable to them. And then when I started talking about that couple of years later, a lot of people came to me saying, I have the same feeling right now. I'm tired right now. I think I might be going through burnout, or I'm afraid that I'm going into this direction. So the awareness is much better than a couple of years ago. What we need right now is awareness of leaders. And I know it's happening right now because I have a lot of leaders coming to me, for example, during presentations or even online in private conversations. And they want to know how to act when they know that there are some team members who go through burnout. So it's... we need 3 players in this game to make statistics better. So we need people who are aware of the risk and want to do something about it. They are checking if they are okay, they are preventing burnout, they are making breaks, etc. We need leaders who support them. Not only saying you need to go to therapy, but rather being supportive on daily basis and showing good examples. So leaders needs to take care of themselves as well. It's not that they are going to take care of the team if they are burnout. So they need to take breaks as well and have this work-life balance, which is impossible, but we will probably talk about it later. And we need organizations who give support, who give budgets for therapists, for taking time off, for example, to take care of your mental health, who organize workshops, for example, who build this culture of balance, basically, whatever it means. So even if you are aware that you're going through burnout, if you don't have any support from your organization, it's going to be tough to deal with that. And it's also true the other way around. So if you have the full support of your organization and your leader is the best leader and supports you, but you are not aware of what's going on in your body, in your mind, then it's useless for you. You're not going to use this help to do any good for you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I drew a triangle, and it seems like one of those triangles that needs to be in place for us all. Because yeah, I can heavily relate to that, because I don't know if it was you or someone else that talked about recognizing toxic environments and toxic companies around us, because right now the leaders might not be aware that they are creating the environment in which burnout might be a consequence of their actions. If they are giving maybe not the best examples, or they are demanding things from people that are not possible to be delivered all the time, because of course for a time a period, everything is possible and everyone can work their asses off and deliver, but at some point it will all probably blow up, or someone will, which might spoil the other group. So I think, yeah, that what you mentioned about leaders being supportive organizations and people at the end of the day, that seems to be a solution, which is not the easiest, of course, but now, especially after COVID, I know I also see that. Maybe you can also confirm that jumping to remote, back to the office again, hybrid remote, it didn't help to establish one environment through it all. Do you work remotely? Did you work remotely all the time, or how do you find it affecting you during the COVID times?
I think since by pandemics, I've been working remotely all the time, and it's tough because you lack relationships. Some of them, even if I have friends, even if I have family, there is still need to meet people who are from my industry to talk about work, and for that I have my. I can call them friends, I think, and also some people who are involved in the same projects, and we meet from time to time face to face, and that helps a lot. So going to conferences, for example, or going to meetups, or going to just one-to-one meetings with someone who is from industry, that helps a lot. Because we take care of those relationships, and relationships is one of the core factor for mental health. So even if we don't enjoy going to meetings or working with people, we still need that. I know some people prefer working remotely, but as long as they are involved in some communities, it's fine. But if they are on their own all the time, it's not going to be it's not going to affect positively their mental health in a long run. So I know that coming back to office is not something we dream about, because we need to spend much more time going to work, and it's hard to focus on open space, for example. But like working in a hybrid, so working partially from home and partially from the office, could be good opportunity to have those relationships and have all the meetings that we need to have during the week, for example, on site in the office, and then leave the focus, leave the deep work to be accomplished at home. Because if we try to have meetings when we are at home and then try to do deep work when we are on open space, it's not going to work. So if we have this situation where we need to work partially from the office, we should try to use it as much as possible. So use it positively and think positively about it. Because if we are miserable about going to work, it's not going to help. It's going to be like, it's going to increase our risk of burnout even more.
Yeah, that's so true and not easy to resolve. Uh, cool. I think it's you've mentioned work-life balance already a couple of times. I think this is the time for us to discuss this challenge. Because and of course right now we can jump back to the past a little as well, but we talk also about the presence and now, and talk about how you orchestrate this time, how you manage to do so many things, or how you did manage to do so many things in the past and still do it constantly right now. So how your typical week looks like? Do you have a typical week right now, by the way?
It's a hard question because I'm a pretty chaotic person, and I enjoy it.
Okay,
So
so it's by
I
design.
by
Controlled
design
chaos.
exactly. So yeah, you might say that I have typical week because I have some meetings scheduled, for example, mentoring meetings. I have
Hmm.
some projects which are put into my calendar, but I have a lot of things like floating around, and those are things that I want to accomplish during the week. And those are things related to work, of course, so creating content, learning new skills, preparing some materials, but it also means that I take care of my diet, I take care of my body, and all those things are on my to-do list. So my to-do list is not only about work, it's also about self-care, it's also about learning things, which is related to industry, which is related to software engineering, but not always. Sometimes I want to like gain new knowledge and skills in, I don't know, art or fashion or something, and then I spend time on that. And this is like um, my plan for the week, to spend some time learning those things. So my weeks are not the same,
Hmm.
but in the idea that I have some draft of the week, and then the other things just are fluent, then my almost all my weeks look this way.
Okay, but do you have any kind of routine or habit to plan it? Is there, a Sunday, 6 p.m. you sit down with your calendar and then you draft out the idea, or is it also a controlled chaos and it depends from the time when you have time or a driver to do that? How it looks for you?
I try to do that. I have my journal, the paper one,
Mhm.
and I try to sit down, like you said, Sunday evening or Monday morning. Then I plan the whole week. I plan what I want to accomplish, but then there are weeks where I don't know, I'm sick or something's going on with my company, so I need to go to I don't know, post office or something, and that going to post office is not like 15 minutes in Poland. So then my schedule is moved, and then I'm hungry, so I need to focus on like cooking something, etc. So yeah, it can change from day
Mhm.
to day, but I try to like do something productive every day to have this feeling of accomplishment. And also when I act, when I do things, then motivation comes,
Hmm.
because in the past I tried to like sit and wait for the motivation to come, especially with creating content, but it doesn't work this way. I need to sit down and start working on something, um, even on the plan. And then when I have the plan and I know it's going to be good, then motivation hits, and I have this internal power to accomplish something, because I'm really poor with discipline. I think discipline talent is on my list of Gallup talents, on 27th spot.
Okay.
So it's somewhere in the back. But internal motivation is something that is more important for me this way. So I need to know why am I working on something, and then it helps. Then I just start working, and motivation hits, and this is my modus operandi. Because with like this plan, when I need to do things, and when the schedule is very like busy and nothing is fluent, then I feel trapped, and my internal motivation lowers, and it's really bad spot for me. So I prefer to do things my way in a little bit of chaos, but it helps me to create things.
Okay. But I assume that you've learned that at some point, right? It was not always like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you've mentioned before, even when we started recording, that you had some crazy years as well when you were crunching and doing. It was a brute force approach, as you mentioned on
Yeah.
one of the presentation, right? So then it was like. After this period, you've realized that there is another way, or you've kind of agreed with yourself that okay, right now I'm uh, going to the brute force approach, and I will just do as much as I can to maybe then stop, or was it like then you were not aware that you are doing something wrong, maybe, right? How was it then compared to what is now?
I think during my brute force phase, I didn't realize that it was brute force.
Okay,
So
you didn't feel it then, right? That you are
no,
doing.
no, no,
Yeah.
no. I was just excited, a lot of positive emotions, but also a lot of coffee, a lot of projects on my to-do list. So I was too busy to even think about it. And then when I started like checking what's going on in my body, in my mind, then I realized that it doesn't seem like the perfect solution, because every time I was sick or something happened, I got angry because I had so many things on my list, and I couldn't accomplish them. So instead of like enjoying the process, I started feeling irritated and not like many positive emotions about that. So then I realized I need to slow down, do things slower, do less, but enjoy the process on the way. So that was my discovery. It was not like one moment then where I
Epiphany.
sat down. Yeah, it was like, ta-da, you should work this way, but rather it was a slow process of checking what's going on inside me, and adjusting my lifestyle to that.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting because we often see people like yourself being very active, doing so many things. Then we often compare, or at least aim to compare that. Oh, I'm not doing this and that. Oh, they are delivering, and then at some point we realize that there are other ways, and we can also do other things, and make some space for us to do that by reducing space for something else. One question here: are you drinking coffee now? That's
No.
the you quit
uh,
coffee.
I quit for a month, so it's not like a
Okay.
long-term
Okay.
decision. But I
Because you've
wanted to,
mentioned this coffee a couple of times, and I was thinking like, oh,
yeah,
maybe that was a kind of interesting part of
yeah,
that.
I wanted to check if this like hyperactive person
Mm-hmm.
is me, or is it me after coffee.
Okay.
So and yeah, after like 1 week, 1 week is really hard, the first week without coffee, but
Mm-hmm.
after 2 weeks, I think I survived 3 weeks now. So it's quite an accomplishment for me. And I start getting back to my like original energy. I'm not sure how it works with caffeine, but I feel like I have this energy and I have this power, but it's not unlimited. Like after you drink coffee, you feel like you have a lot of power, but then after a couple of weeks, a couple of hours, you go back to like even worse spot where you don't have any energy, and then you need another coffee. But without any caffeine, I have this energy. It's a little bit lower, but it's constant. So I think I enjoy that. Not sure what I'm gonna do after December.
Okay.
We'll see.
Please share, because that's also something what a lot of people try to do, and of course those all anti-dopamine detox and stuff. It's very common these days to understand that from where this energy is coming from, right? Or where is my original energy, as you've mentioned. So that's really great to observe. And then just wrapping up this calendar thing, I think you've also mentioned that right now you're more able to say no to things, and also you kind of decide where to put your focus on, and since the previous crunching years, let's say, now you try to do less things. Is that something, is there any technique that you use right now to categorize things that you are involved yourself in? Is that more like you await this kind of vibe or feeling that, oh yeah, right now I want to focus on that? Is there any kind of, it's hard to say a way to do that, because I don't think there is a way, but are you seeing something like a pattern right now to, hey, I will make a decision because maybe this makes me happy, or I will just do it because I need to do it? How do you approach this things to make some more space for your things?
I think that the way number one is to like wait when I have the idea, and usually I'm a Gallup activator, so I want to like do it immediately. So what's most important, I think, is that I let it wait for a day or two, and if after couple of hours or days I still think it's a great idea, then I start working on that. Because it helps me with not being involved in too many projects that I have the energy at the beginning, but then after 2 weeks I got bored and I don't want to do that anymore. But when it's, for example, a podcast or a YouTube channel, you need to continue. It's not like you can record two videos and that's it. You need to continue, so it's easier to continue projects when you are sure that those projects are going to be good and you just enjoy them on the way, the process of creating those things. When someone approaches me with the idea, or some company comes to me, then I try to figure out if it's okay with my values, with myself. So how do I feel about it? And if I feel like this is good idea, then I usually join the project. It all, of course, it depends on the scope of the project. But
Yep.
if it's something small, I'm talking about things that someone invites me to give a presentation, for example, in the company, or someone wants me to conduct a training, or someone wants me to advertise their product online or something like that. So if I am cool with the company and I think that it's a good company and there is gonna be value from this cooperation, I usually join this project. But if I feel like there is something wrong with me in this project, so I don't feel the values of the company, or I just don't feel like this is the right timing, then I just politely say no, and that's it, and I focus on something else. And what changed since I got through burnout is that even if I work on goals, I'm more like systems person. So I work every day and this leads to some goals. But if I set up some goals at the beginning, so for example, month's goals or even year's goal, then I try to focus on many aspects of my life. So not only work, not only personal branding, not only ego stuff, CV things that I can add to my resume, but rather many different things. So things that I can put into my resume, things about my health, things about my personal life, etc. And then I get closer to this balance. It's not perfect balance, of course, because sometimes I need to work 12 hours a day. Sometimes I need to take care of my health and I cannot work at all. But in the long run, it feels like balance.
I was going to ask about this balance, because it seems like maybe it's not something which you are even aiming to have in place. A lot of people tries to log out after a specific time of the day, but having this mixture of activities and also you being active intentionally or unintentionally in the various places, it's not easy to say that, okay, you won't be looking at Instagram after 5 p.m. or you will always respond to messages in the mornings. But one thing that also came to my mind when you were talking about it is like, did you it's hard to say master, but did you got more familiar with saying no, and you are right now you do not feel bad when you do not accomplish things, and then you abandon them upfront, because I do believe, at least for me, I can speak about myself after those couple of burnouts, when I realized that I was too much a yes man because I said yes to everything, and I was then unhappy with this decision. Right now, I do not have a default no answer, but I do start from no. By design, it's more like, okay, maybe it's not a good, but then let's convince myself, of course, because I'm the one who need to convince myself that it's something good for me. Is that something that you also realize, that saying no is easier right now, and also not accomplishing it, or having day that is not playing as planned, is not strategy? It's more like, okay, yeah, that's okay. Is that true?
I think so. I think that it's easier to say no when you realize that you say yes to something else. And without saying no, you say no to that other thing, which means your health, your free time, time for your family, working on another project, having just pure pleasure of doing something which you enjoy, etc. So if you think about it this way, it's easier to reject some projects, even though the first feeling is excitement. So I get like really excited about things. Mostly when I like discover those ideas. So this is the moment where I need to like stop and think about them and listen to this gut feeling, because brain is one thing, your mind, decision making, logical process of decision making is one thing, but usually guts also have some
Something to say.
ideas, something to say, exactly. So if you listen to both and they both agree, then probably it's a cool project. But if there is some mismatch, so either it doesn't make any sense, I don't know, financially, for example, if we talk about commercial projects, or your gut feeling is really bad about this project, you need to give it a second thought. Because without that, you're going to be involved in many projects, you're going to be extremely busy, and at the end of the day, you're going to be irritated and frustrated. And it's not a good spot to be, because it will lead you to burnout. And then after some time, no one will like use your talents. Not you, not companies, not other people, collaborators, etc. So you need to take care of yourself before you take care of others and some projects.
I like this analogy very, very much. So, what are you then saying no to now, or what are you saying yes to for the next future and the newest plans for you then? What's next for you now?
I usually say no to like traveling and giving speeches on various meetups and
Really?
conferences.
Because, I've seen you. That's also on my agenda, and I think we can marry those two topics now. Because one thing that I can't remember who was that. It was probably Oscar, who said that I need to say no to more conferences next year, and that's my plan. And again, I saw you on a lot of agendas this year as well. You've been also on the communities behind the agendas, helping out shape them up. And is this also something what you feel constantly like you need to reduce this activity, but then life occurs, and then you are also on 20 plus events probably then it happens. So
It used to
events,
be
that's one thing.
it used
Travel.
to be this way, that I attended 20 to 30 events a year, and it was a lot and it was too much. So right now I think I attend like 3 or 4 conferences a year. I mean offline attendance, but with online events it's easier, because I just turn on my camera and I can record from my home office, so it's fine. So probably more of those. With meetups, I attend some of them when those are community driven and I have some free time, then I try to join them. With company events, it depends, because then I need to send an offer and they accept it or not. I have sometimes some free spots or not. So it's a negotiation process. But I don't feel like I attended more than 10 events this year combined. There is a lot of recordings of my presentations online, and probably that's why people think that I'm extremely busy with attending conferences, but it's not this way anymore. So this is when we come back to this personal branding topic. When you create a lot of content and it's online and you share it from time to time, even if you don't create anything new, people will have this impression that you're a very active person. It's a matter of like this this first part of creating content. And if you are past that, then even if you record something once per month or so, people still think that you create a lot of content because they also see your previous things, your previous content, and this impression will last. But you don't need to like be extremely busy all the time.
Yeah, that's true, and I saw a lot of your videos as well on YouTube. So that's true, and content can be reused easily. So that's the beauty of the content. So what are you making space for then next year? So you've accomplished a huge thing, I think, by reducing this amount of first of all travels and activities. You also mentioned earlier that you kind of worked less, so you achieved some more space and freedom in your head, and this balance that we are all striving for. Is there a plan to even reduce it more next year? Is there any big idea that awaits time or this more space to be available? Is there anything already that you've settled for yourself as plan, goal, or initiative for the 2025?
No,
Which
I'm not really a
kind of
goal person. So I think it will come. My biggest dream right now is to work on something related to mental health in IT industry and maybe with AI. So those are three areas that I'm really interested in, and maybe next year, maybe some of upcoming years, it will. I will create something around it. So either I will join a project which combines those three, or I will create my own project, or I will like prepare for this. We'll see about that, but this is something that is in my mind since quite some time right now, to combine all my talents in like one sweet spot. But we'll see how it goes, because the way I operate usually is that I am active. I do things, I prepare content, I talk to people about my dreams, about my plans, and then something happens, then magic happens. And I tried to like be goal oriented, especially for like financial things. It doesn't really work for me. So if I set up goal, which is like, I don't know, the amount of money I'm gonna make next month or something, it stops me from any creativity. It doesn't motivate me at all. So I need to operate different ways. And that was also something that I learned during the years, that this financial goal is not really something that motivates me at all. So this is external motivator. Probably that's the reason that my internal motivation is so high that when I try to motivate myself with some external things, it's less effective for me.
That's true, and that's really nice to realize that at some point, because it's also a lot about self-awareness. That that might not be this, right? And maybe we need to look somewhere else for the motivation or whatever else we need to do the work. You've mentioned learning as well, and I want to ask you: is there any area or things around new things, technologies? I don't know, everything what is hot at the moment that you feel like you want to learn in the nearest future? Are you maybe besides psychology, because I believe this is something still present? How long are the studies for that you are participating?
So I graduated already, because it was 1 year.
Right, so
Yeah.
Okay. So, but is psychology still a topic that you want to evolve? Is there any other area
Definitely.
that? Okay. So,
Yeah, definitely. I have many books from my studies, so I go through those books, and I explore this area as well, because there is things about motivation, about job crafting, about optimism, about good habits, gratitude, and everything. Every of those topics can be explored even further. So psychology stays
Yep.
in my schedule. So I try to learn new things every day. But also AI in like mostly from development point of view. So not only about like the whole idea, the future, the trends. This is something like less interesting for me. The most interesting for me is to how to implement AI solutions to deliver better software, to work better, because the topic number one for me is quality of the work itself, but quality of the software as well. So I would like to explore this topic, how we can use AI to work smarter so we can avoid burnout in the long run, or how we can implement AI to create better software so we have like higher satisfaction and we prevent burnout in the long run. So all those topics, I know they don't seem to be like much related. Tests, software engineering, psychology, and AI, but
Yeah.
they are really like connected to each other. And I think this is something that I will try to explore during next year.
Yeah, but I think that sounds extremely exciting and interesting, to be fair, because again, we had mentioned that you've been doing some online courses back in the days, and of course they were very specialized. And in this case, it seems like you plan to go beyond the specialized area and combine some useful tools, techniques, and of course areas of our lives to have an output and outcome on the area that is extremely important, which is kind of our engines that we have in our heads. So
Yeah.
that's an exciting plan. That's exciting plan. Before we'll jump into the final segments of the Busy Programmer series, which are questions from the previous Busy Programmer and quick shots. If you would be approached right now, and again, it's outside of your mentoring, but it's more about on the bigger scale. If you would be approached by the people who right now, again, either building their careers or dealing with their problems during the careers, lack of technical skills, or even awareness about the topics that we talked about today, where would you guide them? Where would you point them first? Should start? Are there any books, materials, first steps, tests, whatever that you can do to realize that, oh, maybe I need to go there. Is there any standard answer that you'd kind of start with when it comes to dealing with people who approach you and say that, okay, I have a problem and I need to do something with that?
I think the best idea is to explore everything and then find your own path. Because what I observe, especially for juniors, for people who join IT, is that they want to be specialized from day one. And it's impossible, because even if they select some path, it's very likely that this path is not going to be theirs. So it's either from their colleagues, someone suggested them that, or they just did some research on what's the best paid, and they decided based on that, and it's never a good idea. So I always recommend exploring areas and experimenting with things, because learning is one thing, gaining knowledge is amazing, but without skills, knowledge, you're gonna forget that after a couple of weeks. So make your hands dirty with whatever you're working on and enjoy the process. So right now I'm involved in AI devs course, and it's really hard for me to fight with fear of missing out, because I joined later, because I had some big project at the beginning of November, and then everyone was ahead of me, and I felt like I'm not sure if I'm gonna finish this course or not. And then I realized that, hey, I'm doing some great things, I'm learning new things, getting new skills, and I should enjoy the way. Not only the goal, but also the process of that. And it from that moment, it gives me much more pleasure to gain this knowledge. And even if I don't finish this course, these skills, they're gonna stay with me. So this is amazing. And like this pressure that we put on ourselves usually when we try to like focus on a goal is not only tiring for us, but it also can lead to burnout in like learning or studying. So it's important that you enjoy the process and you listen to your gut feeling, because some topics are gonna be hard, but they are gonna give you pleasure. But some topics are hard and they are impossible for you to like. And probably those topics are not for you, simply. Just focus on something else. And it happened to me many times during my career that I thought that I need to know something because I'm a backend engineer or because I'm a senior engineer. But then I realized that I have so many other skills that I don't need this particular one, and I said no to that one, and then I started enjoying that thing. For example, I don't know, DevOps was a thing for me like this. That it was a hardcore for me to do anything on server, for example. But then when I realized I don't need to do that, I don't need to know that, then I started enjoying that, and then I started playing with that, experimenting, and I got a lot of experience in that because I got rid of this pressure on myself, and that was freeing. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like we just need, all of us should talk more with ourselves.
Yeah.
and then and ask questions for ourselves why things are happening, and then also realize that we do not to be everywhere. We do not to do everything. We do not to say yes to everything. We do not need to force ourselves to do that, because this pressure, again, we are in the month of December now. It's not a history. There is a December pressure in a lot of the people's heads because they need to finish things before specific dates that they will settle for themselves, which is often not true. So realizing this might make a huge impacts and changes for people. So that's great. I think it's a great piece of advice. So thanks for sharing that. So and I have a question to you. Then I will ask you. I will ask you to leave me a question too for someone who I will be interviewing next. It's a tradition that I borrowed from Stephen Bartlett and the Diary of CEO, because I kind of like this randomness in this. I have a question for you from someone who was interviewed the last time, and this question is really interesting. And this is the question: if you could pair program with any historical figure, not necessarily a programmer, who would you choose?
This is a great question. I think I wouldn't pick a programmer, because from my experience, people who come from outside the industry, they have like different ideas, and they have different perspective on things. So probably I would pick some actor. I know it sounds crazy, but I know some actors who are developers and they are amazing. So I think acting is like good match for programming.
Is there any specific one?
If it would be possible to pick anyone, I would pick Meryl Streep, of course.
Everyone is possible in this case.
Yeah, so let's pick her. I think she's like so hardworking, but I really enjoy her process of working. So I think she was one of the examples for me that you can actually work this way and it can be productive. That you focus all your strength and all your energy for short periods of time, and you do everything to make your project work. and then you enjoy your free time, and then you spend time with your family, and then you don't focus on work at all. And she also not she doesn't go to any like those big parties
Events, yeah.
when she doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can see her on during parties, but it's not very common for her. So if she prefers to spend time with her family, she does it, and she doesn't feel like sorry or anything because of that. So probably if I have some tough project, some tough problem to solve, she would be perfect per programmer for me to like discuss it, even if she doesn't have any idea about the project, because I also know that when she prepares for a role, she does excellent research, and
Okay.
she tries to be like the character she's playing, not only on the stage but during her personal life as well. So some features of this character like are applied to her personal life as well. So she's excellent researcher. So probably if I have some, I don't know, AI machine learning issue to
Context.
solve, yeah, she would probably use every tool possible to make this research and find the solution.
Yeah, that's interesting pair. I'd love to see the results of this code, highlighted with some comments that Meryl Streep made some impact on that. That's cool. That's a great answer. So yeah, I will ask you about this question as well, to be left for another busy programmer who would be interviewed next. And now, just to wrap up, quick questions, couple of the quick questions to which the answers are either option A or option B without explanation, or yes or no.
Okay.
So I call it quick shots. So just an answer without explanation, and we will be wrapping up. So the first question is meetings or emails?
Meetings.
Perfect code or perfect deadline?
Perfect deadline.
Silent mode or notifications on?
Silent mode.
Personal branding is essential, yes or no?
Yes.
Online courses or physical workshops?
Online courses.
Work-life balance is achievable, yes or no?
Yes.
That was unintentional to our conversations. I had this question highlighted earlier, but it ideally wraps the things that we've mentioned today. So I think it's great. That's the end of quick shots. So that's it. Ola, thank you very much, first of all, for all the inputs here, and again for everyone who for every story that you've shared, all the experience that you've gathered, and all the things that you've shared, not only in this conversation but everywhere else that I was exposed to. I'm very happy that I was able to bring you here and be able to talk about it in the more, let's say, international exposure, because I know that all of your materials, most of your materials were in Polish until now. I benefited from them a lot, and I do hope that there is a lot of other people, and I know there's a lot of people who also get this seriously and approach that seriously and are more aware thanks to everything what you've done. So tell maybe all the other people now where they can find you, how you prefer to connect with people, and how to work with you, maybe if anyone is interested to explore more of these areas.
Thank you, first of all, for all your kind words. Thank you for the invitation. It was great. It was great to be here and talk to you about preventing burnout and other software engineering related things. I'm really easy foundable online, so probably the medium number one is Instagram. LinkedIn probably so as well. Like you've mentioned, most of my materials are in Polish, but if you would like to have some English materials, then just let me know and maybe I will prepare something. I have my newsletter as well. Probably will add some links in the description of the of this podcast. So yeah, just Google me and let me know if you need something, if I can help you.
Awesome. Once again, thank you, Ola, very much for your time and the knowledge that you've shared with everyone who will be watching that. And I will make sure that all of the links and all of the contacts are left in this description, else everywhere where it will be published. And yeah, for again, I'm wishing you the closest as you can get into the missions that you plan for the next time, even if you do not plan, just to enjoy the process of getting there. And yeah, be sure to share more of your work and more of your findings, because whenever I will be able to help, I will try to spread it out, and fingers crossed for all the goals and ideas that will be brought to your mind in the next time. So once again, thank you very much, and hopefully see you soon on some of the events or some of the other podcasts or materials there.
Thank you.